Of all the patients I treated in the second half of their lives, every single one over the age of 35, there was not one whose real problem, in the last resort, was anything other than finding a religious outlook on life. Every one of them fell ill because they had lost what the living religions of every age once gave their followers, and not one of them was actually healed until they found their way back to some version of it. I want to be careful here, because that sentence gets misread. I am not telling you to join a church. I'm telling you about a specific breakdown that arrives for a great many people, right on schedule, and about why our entire civilization has misplaced the thing that used to treat it. Picture the sun crossing the sky, and imagine, just for a moment, that the sun has feelings and a limited consciousness, the way we do. In the morning, it rises out of darkness, and the higher it climbs, the wider the world it lights up. Its whole purpose seems obvious. Rise, expand, shine on as much as possible. And at the stroke of noon, without warning, the descent begins. Here's the part that matters. The descent isn't just a continuation of the morning at a downward angle. It's a reversal of everything the morning valued. What was great in the morning becomes small by evening. What was true at dawn becomes, by dusk, a lie. The sun begins drawing its light back inward instead of flinging it outward. That noon reversal is what happens to a human being somewhere around 40, and almost nobody is warned it's coming. We spend the entire first half of life on the correct tasks of the morning, building a place in the world, earning, establishing ourselves, raising children. Those are the aims of nature, and they're not wrong. The mistake, the one that makes people ill, is carrying the morning's program into the afternoon and expecting the truths and ideals that got you to noon to keep working past it. They don't, and when they quietly stop working, the person experiences it not as a scheduled turning, but as an inexplicable collapse. I watched this constantly, particularly in the business world, and particularly at the time I was writing, in America, where the nervous breakdown in the 40s was almost a fixture. When you looked closely at who broke down, you saw that the thing which had actually failed was the whole masculine style of striving that had carried the man successfully up to that point. It simply ran out, and what was left over, in his own words often, was a person who no longer recognized himself. The very same reversal ran the opposite direction in women of the same era, who frequently woke to a sharpness, an ambition, an incisiveness in the second half of life that the first half had given no room to. Sometimes a man wound up his business at 50, and his wife opened a shop and put on the trousers, and the marriage went through every kind of catastrophe as each discovered the half of themselves they'd spent decades not using. I don't offer that as a comment on men and women specifically. I offer it as the visible shape of a deeper fact. At life's noon, a person's values, and even something in the body, tend to reverse into their opposite. The material you left unused in the morning starts, insistently demanding to be lived. There's an old ethnological account I've always found more honest than most of our psychology. An Indian warrior chief, in middle age, had the Great Spirit appear to him in a dream and tell him that from now on he must sit among the women and children, wear their clothes, eat their food, and he obeyed the dream without any loss of standing among his people. His culture had a place for the noon reversal. It had a container for it. That's precisely what ours has lost. Now, why did I say this is a religious problem when I've just described it as a psychological one? Because the old religions were, among other things, schools for the second half of life. That was one of their quiet functions. They prepared people for age, for the contraction of life, for death. And they did it by holding out meaning and a goal that faced forward instead of backward. For a young person, being too preoccupied with yourself is almost a fault, even a danger. For the aging person, turning serious attention inward isn't self-indulgence, it's a duty, the exact task the second half of life exists for. The sun, having spent the morning lighting the world, turns in the afternoon to illuminate itself. Strip that container away, and the reversal still comes, but now there's nothing to receive it. So people improvise substitutes, and they're always sad ones. They become hypochondriacs, or misers, or rigid doctrinaires, or most common of all, eternal adolescents, fathers competing to be the brother of their sons, endless endlessly warming up the dish of their student days, always glancing backward because they can't bear to look at what's ahead. All of these, I said, are lamentable substitutes for the one thing that would actually work, the illumination of the self. And this is why I call it a collective symptom, not just a private one. A whole civilization has decided the afternoon of life is a mere pitiful appendage to the morning, more of the same striving extended past all reason until it breaks. When I ran an actual survey asking whether people in spiritual distress now went to the doctor or the clergyman, the majority of Protestants chose the doctor. They came to me, and I want to be honest that most of the time I was not the right address for what they'd actually lost. I could only help them find their own way back to it. So, practically, what do you do with your own noon, whether it's coming, happening, or already behind you? First, stop expecting the second half to run on the first half's fuel. The ambition, the accumulation, the outward expansion that were right and necessary in your 20s and 30s are not a program you can simply run harder at 50. If they've started to feel hollow, that hollowness is not a malfunction. It's the reversal, arriving on time. Second, take the unlived material seriously. Whatever you set aside to succeed at the morning's tasks, the tenderness a hard-driving man never had room for, the sharpness a self-effacing person never let herself use, is exactly what comes knocking in the afternoon. It doesn't come to punish you. It comes because it's the other half of you, and it wants to be lived before the light goes. Third, and this is the one people resist most, find some genuine relationship to meaning that faces forward. I'm not prescribing a creed. I'm telling you, as plainly as decades of clinical work let me, that the people who navigated the second half of life without wrecking on it were the ones who found something that made the descent itself significant, rather than merely a diminishment to be denied for as long as possible. The art of living, and I mean this precisely, is the most distinguished and the rarest of all the arts. Almost nobody drains the whole cup with grace. Most of us arrive at the threshold of age with too much unlived life still in us, and that unlived remainder is what keeps forcing our glance backward when it most needs to go forward. The morning was never meant to last all day. Understanding that, actually understanding it, before noon arrives unannounced, is most of the work. If you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe.